United with Christ. Meet local churches with open doors serving throughout the Border Valley community and sharing the truth and hope of God's love and salvation. A presentation by KSCE Channel 38 Christian Television. And now, United with Christ.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. That's what I'm going to be teaching on today, that very first word, Shema. Shema, to hear. Hear, O Israel. And it's kind of a big subject, and it's a very small word, but it's a big subject, and there's a lot to it. I'm going to try to make it as clear as I possibly can. This is not a small thing. It will probably challenge you, because the concept that I'm going to teach today is maybe something you've never heard before, and it's about listening to God. It's actually about the whole story in the Bible about what God desires in a relationship. In Hebrews chapter 8, 7 through 9, it says this: "For if the first covenant had been faultless, there would have been no occasion sought for a second covenant, for finding fault with them. He says, behold, days are coming when I will effect a new covenant." In Hebrew, that's Brit Hadashah, new covenant. Brit, covenant or cutting, and HaChadashah, the new. "With the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the covenant which I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand and led them out of the land of Egypt, for they did not continue in my covenant." Now, what it's quoting here is Jeremiah 31:31, and then it gives some teaching, encased within the passage. The teacher of Hebrews, or the writer of Hebrews, gives a cool teaching, but he's quoting Jeremiah 31:31. He's doing it on purpose to say that this is a completely new thing, believing in Jesus or Yeshua, but he ties that in with this covenant. So the question is, what is the covenant? Well, I mean, what makes it such a big deal? Why is it called HaChadashah, the new? What makes it new? Why is it new? Well, here's why. In Jeremiah 31:31, it says, "Behold, days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, not like the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, my covenant which they broke, even though I was a husband to them." In other words, it's about relationship. "But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days. I will put my law," my Torah in Hebrew, "I will put my Torah within them, and on their heart I will write it. And I will be their God, and they shall be my people." I'm going to take my talit, my prayer shawl, off. Most people really don't think about the concept that it says, "I will write my Torah, my law, in their heart." It doesn't say, "I will write my love in their heart." It doesn't say, "I will write my thinking in their heart." It doesn't say, "Well, I will write the death of Jesus and resurrection of Jesus in their heart." It says, "I will write my law, my Torah." Now, even that is a little tricky, because the word Torah doesn't really mean law. The word Torah means instruction, Torah. It comes from the root yada, which means to throw or to cast or to point, or kind of like falling rain. Like it's very pinpointed. It's instruction. Like there's a passage in Deuteronomy 33, I believe it is. It's the Song of Moses, where it says, "Let my teaching distill like the rain, distill like the dew and fall like the rain." Well, that's the word Torah. May it fall, may doctrine fall and come. That's the word Torah. So it's a little more complicated than just law. And in fact, it's not law. It's instruction, and they're two completely different things. I'm a school teacher. I don't go into my class to give laws. I go into my class to instruct, so that the children learn, so that they grow, and they get to know things that I want them to know. Well, God is the same way. God never gave laws. I know that might be strange for you to hear, but there are not 10 commandments. There are not, to my Jewish brothers and sisters, there are not 613 laws or commandments. The word for Torah means instruction, and that is what God, by the new covenant, wrote in our heart. He didn't write love in our hearts. He didn't write faith in our hearts. He didn't write these simple, beautiful, nice little concepts. He wrote the Torah, his Torah, in our heart. I have a picture that I've brought of Jeremiah 31:31. If we could bring that up, it has both covenants. It has the covenant down on the bottom of the fire of God writing the 10 words. That's what we call them in the Bible, the 10 words, not 10 commandments. It says they were written by the finger of God. And then on the top, it has the very same words being written into this man's heart. And by the way, the heart is not, like we think of a human heart. The heart is the guts, it's the inside. And so those words are just going into his insides, but they're the same words. They're not different words from the Torah. That's the new covenant. Now, this might present you with a problem, because most people believe that the coming of Jesus and the death of Jesus, providing salvation and the atonement and the resurrection of Jesus, is something different from Judaism, from the law. But it's not. It is precisely the same thing. And so the way we think about Jesus and the way we think about God, I think it needs to turn. It's like a giant ship that needs to turn and go in a different direction, because the direction it's been going for 2,000 years is away from Judaism and away from the law. And in these days, God seems to be turning that ship more toward the Jewish roots. Thank God he is. Well, in Deuteronomy 32, this is one example of many, many, many examples in the Bible that people get the idea that there are commandments that God wants us to obey. And I'm putting that in quotes on purpose, because that's what I'm going to teach about today. I'm going to teach about the fact that it's not obey, it's Shema, listen. And they're two totally different things. In Deuteronomy 32, this is one of the many, many passages that people read and get the idea that there's laws to obey. In verse 46, it says, he said to them, take to your heart all the words which I am warning you today with, which you shall command your sons to observe carefully, even all the words of this law. I mean, it sounds like, this is scary stuff. God wants you to warn your children and warn your families, warn them to be careful to obey these laws, these commandments. Not what it says in Hebrew at all. Not even close. It says, tell them to be very careful to listen to the instruction. Now that makes a completely different view of God. God is not some commander on a mountaintop that we're supposed to be afraid of. God wants a relationship. He doesn't want us to be children that mindlessly just go, yes, Daddy, I'm going to do what you say. Not what he's after. What he wants is a wife that he's the husband to. And he wants that wife to love him, not to obey him, to love him and to listen to him. Two completely different things. I know it's going to take a while for this to really start making sense, because this is very different from what you've probably heard your whole life. Now back to the Shema, the prayer that Jews have prayed for 3,500 years, the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And these words that I set up for you today shall be upon your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children. Teach them, not force them. Teach them diligently to your children. You shall speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk in the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. You shall put them as a sign between your eyes and as frontlets, between your eyes and as a sign upon your arm. And you shall write them in your doorposts, on your doorposts and in your gates. And we say this every service. And actually, we say it every day, twice a day, in the morning and the evening. And every service, the Shema. It's the biggest thing in Judaism. We call it the Kalal Gadol, the big idea, the big thing. And it is called the watchword of Judaism. Watchword, I'm not really sure what that means, other than it's like the big thing. It's the thing that we can all hang our hats on. Hear, O Israel, not obey, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. That doesn't even make sense. But listen, Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. That's the watchword of Judaism. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. Hearing, listening, rather than obeying. I've heard countless teachings from Christians. And by the way, countless teachings from Jews. Everybody wants to obey God. We all want God not to be mad at us. We all want to obey him. The only problem is God never asks us to obey him. Not once in the scriptures. Not once, which I'll show you. But he did ask us many, many, many times to listen to something. And the something is what I'm going to show you. Listen to him, yes, but listen to something. Now, I have a picture to show you. This is from the Gesenius, from the Strong's lexicon, and it's the word Shema. It's the word, like if you look up obey, okay, that's the picture of the Shema. This is the Shema, and this is the man with his son, and he's writing the Shema, and he's recording it, writing the Torah, and he's teaching his children, through the centuries, through the years, through generations, to listen to that word. Let's bring up the picture of the word obey, obedience, from the Strong's Concordance. I don't know if you can see this. It's pretty small, but if you look up the word in Strong's, obey, obeyeth, obeying, obedience, anything like that, this is what you find in the Strong's Concordance. It's a listing of every word in the Bible. And the word is, I believe it's 8085. I've got it highlighted for you there in yellow. Every single verse that is translated obey, obeying, obeyeth, obedience in the Old Testament, every one of them is this word Shema, to hear. Because God wants a relationship. And this song that we're going to play for you now is about that relationship that we have with God. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. Welcome back. God wants a relationship with you. God wants a relationship with all of us. God doesn't want us to look at him like a tyrant or a boss or even a harsh father. He wants to have relationship. Now, the only way to do that is for God to say, listen to me. Not, I'm giving you a law, you need to obey it. That doesn't create a relationship. And like the song that we just sang, Ani Ludodi Vidodi Li, I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. That's God's relationship with Israel. It's not about law. It's not about commandments. It's about instruction and learning about God from God himself. Now, in Exodus chapter 24, I have a picture of this covenant that Moses made with all of Israel. All of Israel was at Mount Sinai. They cut a covenant. Let's bring that picture up. They cut a covenant with God, and they said something very, very strange. When Moses said, this is what God has said to you, it's the one where Moses is throwing blood on all the people. It's that picture. We got the wrong pictures up. That's all right. Let's just come back to me. So, when they made this covenant, they said something very strange. They said this. They said, everything that God has said, we will do and hear. Now, a lot of Bibles translate that as, we will do and obey. And that makes sense. We will do and obey him. Makes sense. But that's not what the entire nation of Israel said. They said this, all that the Lord has said, we will do it and then listen to it. We'll do it and then listen. It's the word na'aseh, do, v'nishma. It's the same word, shema, to listen, to hear. All that the Lord has said, we will do it and then listen to it. This prayer shawl has tzitzit, fringes on it. These talk. These preach. They tell a lot of information about God. But if you don't do the tzitzit, if you don't wear the tzitzit, they don't talk to you. It's just information that goes in your head. But if you do it, you have the opportunity of it talking and preaching to you. And that's what the entire nation of Israel said. We're going to do it, and then we're going to listen to it. Now in Deuteronomy chapter 7, I've got a lot of verses in Deuteronomy that say the same thing, and it says something very strange. It says this. It says, we'll do the thing, we'll listen to the thing that we're doing. Not we'll listen to God, we'll listen to the thing that we're doing. In Deuteronomy chapter 7, there are several of them. It says this. In verse 12, it says, then it shall come about, because you listen to these judgments and keep and do them, that the Lord your God will keep with you his covenant and his loving kindness, which he swore to your forefathers. Now, it kind of sounds like a normal verse. Then it will come about, because you listen to these judgments, you do them. But people usually miss what it really says. You listen to these judgments. Not listen to God and do the thing. Listen to the thing itself. Listen to the judgments. And keep and do them. Listen to them and keep and do them. So that's kind of the same concept as na'aseh v'nishma. We will do and then we'll hear it. In Deuteronomy chapter 11, let's bring those verses up. Deuteronomy chapter 11, 13, 27, and 28. It says in 13, it shall come about if you listen. Now, I'm going to read it the way it says in the New American Standard. If you listen obediently to my mitzvot, my commandments, which I'm commanding you today, to love your God, to serve him with your heart. I mean, that's just bad Bible, it's bad translation. It's not good translation at all, because it never says anything about obeying anybody or anything. It just says the word Shema. If you will listen to my, and then it says commandments, which is the word mitzvot. The root is tzavah. All it means is a set up or establish things. So there is no force of obedience here. It's just, it will come about if you listen to my mitzvot, my Jewish stuff, let's call it. If you listen to this Jewish thing. Remember in Colossians 2, 16 through 17, it says that the kosher laws, the new moon, the Sabbath, and the festivals are shadows cast by Yeshua, by Jesus. If you look at the shadow, you'll see Jesus. Well, all the Jewish things are there to teach us, to talk to us, to preach to us. And these verses say that very thing. In verse 27, now listen to this one. The blessing, if you listen to the mitzvot, if you listen to the Jewish stuff of the Lord your God, which I am setting up for you today. But you have to listen to them. They talk to you. If you ignore it, if you throw that part of the Bible away, or you just believe that it has nothing to do with your life in God, it can't talk to you. And if it can't talk to you, you can't hear it. And if you don't listen to it, you're not going to learn from it. This is what God gave us to learn from him. He gave the Jewish stuff so that we can learn from him. That's the curriculum of the class. Now listen to this one. The very next verse says this. And the curse, if you do not listen to the mitzvot, to the set up things. Not if you don't listen to God and do the commandments. It doesn't say that. It says if you don't listen to the Jewish things themselves. If you don't let them talk to you. What does it bring? A curse. Everybody wants to be blessed. All believers want to be blessed. They want the blessings of God. They want the blessings of the Bible. They even want the blessings of Israel. But you know what? The blessing of Israel isn't obeying commandments. The blessing of Israel is hearing God through the commandments. I call them commandments. I shouldn't, but I will, just so you know what I'm saying. Hearing God through the commandments, through the Jewish stuff. That's the blessing of Israel. And if you want that, listen to the mitzvot, listen to the commandments, look at the shadow, and try to figure out what they're showing you about Yeshua and about spiritual things. Now in Deuteronomy 28, another verse says virtually the same thing. Verse 13, and the Lord shall make you the head and not the tail, and you shall only be above, and you shall not be underneath, if you will listen to the mitzvot. If you will listen to the Jewish stuff of the Lord your God, which I charge you today to observe them carefully. These verses all say the same thing. They say, do and hear. Not hear God and then obediently do it. That's the wrong order. You got to reverse the order and say, I'm going to do it and listen to it. Now, everybody knows the passage in Matthew chapter 5. Everybody quotes the verse. Matthew 5:17. People love this verse. And then they kind of rattle off verses 18 and 19. They don't really think about it too much. But you know what? The important verse isn't 17, it's 19. It says this, if you're not familiar with it. This is Jesus talking. Do not think that I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill. Everybody loves that verse because it's like Jesus came, he fulfilled all of the Torah, he fulfilled all of the prophets, and now all we have to do is have faith. But it doesn't say anything like that in the next two verses. It says, verse 18, for truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the tiniest letter, which is, by the way, a yod, Hebrew letter yod, or stroke, shall pass away from the law, from the Torah, until everything is accomplished. Well, everything has not been accomplished. The day of the Lord has not come. The Messianic kingdom has not come. Thousands and thousands and thousands of verses about the day of the Lord have not been fulfilled. So that means the law, not even the tiniest stroke of the law, has not passed away. It's still there for you. And then even stronger is verse 19. Listen to this. Whoever then annuls one of the least of these mitzvot, the stuff that God said to do, and then listen to it. Whoever then annuls the least of the Jewish things. Have we done that? Has the body done that? And so teaches others to annul the least of the Jewish things, shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. Least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever keeps them, keeps the smallest of the Jewish things, and teaches the smallest of the Jewish things, he will be called great in the kingdom. This isn't about, let me say it this way. We want a relationship with God. We want to be one with him. Well, you get better and better at a relationship the more you're in it. And if you want to have a good relationship, you get a higher rank. If you want a bad relationship, you have a lower rank. So if you want a low rank with God and in the kingdom, avoid Judaism. Avoid what it teaches. Avoid what it says to us. If you want to be higher in rank, do it and listen to it and see what it has to say to you. And your rank will go up. Your relationship will get deeper with God. It'll get better with God. You'll hear God, because that's the whole bottom line. Remember, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, listen, O Israel. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. How do you listen? You listen by doing the Jewish stuff, so to speak, and then letting it talk to you as you do it. And that's where our relationship comes from, and that's how it grows. So, again, I'd like to encourage you to try your best to try to find out how to find out how Judaism can talk to you. And it's a lifelong search. So I encourage you to go find out these things. Find yourself a teacher. I'm not the only one in El Paso. I'm not the only one in the United States. I'm not the only one in my community. So God bless you, and I hope that this has been good for you. Shalom.